Detroit is the most underrated city in the US by a long shot. So why are people still moving to Detroit?
I wonder why.
In this video, we're going to be covering just that and seeing what Detroit has to offer. I've got 7 reasons why Detroit has made it back on the map as one of the places that Michiganders love to call home. So let's dive in. First up on the list is the cost of living. Now, Detroit is one of the most affordable places in the nation. We got people from California, Washington State, Chicago, all of the places where there's high cost of living.
Oh, so expensive.
Throw New York in there, and they want out.
Enough with this insanity.
So people are going to other states, and when they look to move to other states, Michigan comes up as one of the most affordable places to live. It's in the Midwest, but specifically Detroit is. And I'm going to go over some stats here in a minute, but people are moving here specifically for the cost of living and the other amenities that Detroit has to offer. Next up on the list is home prices. Now, a huge portion of your cost of living is going to come from your rent or your mortgage if you're buying a house. And living expenses are getting more and more expensive. So we want to make sure we're budgeting accordingly with housing, because we can't really control gas. We can't really control, what's happening with groceries and all this stuff. But what we can do is control where we live and what we pay for it. I know those are even going up as well. So at some point, we're going to hit a tipping point. But the cost of real estate here in Detroit is super affordable. So when you look at the averages, these numbers might shock you a little bit. The average cost of a single family home in Detroit is $75,000. Now, I know what you're thinking right now. You're like, oh my gosh, I could buy 20 houses, 30 houses compared to where I live. Well, pump the brakes here for a second. Detroit is a big area, and there's a lot of neighborhoods within the city limits that might not be as desirable, for someone moving to the city. The more desirable areas, in Detroit are going to be the areas that are starting to have a little bit more regrowth. Areas like Brush Park, Midtown, Corktown, where, and even the Eastern Market, where things are really starting to take shape around the city. And it's going to take a while to get around the outskirts. And don't get me wrong, I know a lot of people from Detroit are probably watching this saying, well, there's some nice areas in Detroit. Yes, but I'm just talking in generalities, finding those specific neighborhoods. If you know of one, drop it in the comments below. We'd love to point some people in that direction of neighborhoods that are super nice that you live in. But here's where it gets interesting. The average price of a condo is $287,000. So in most cities, that's actually flip-flopped. Condos are less expensive than houses, and in Detroit, houses are less expensive than condominiums. So that just goes to show you, in those areas where they are rebuilding, there's a lot of condominium growth, and a lot of the homes that are being rehabbed are being turned into condominiums. So average price of a home, $75,000. Average price of a condo, $287,000. But don't get me wrong, these prices can get a little bit wild. There are condos in Detroit that cost millions of dollars. So if you're looking to be right downtown or on the outskirts of it, you can find some awesome luxury condominiums, and that might run you 1.2 or 2.2 million, depending on what type of square footage, what type of amenities, and what location it's actually in. Next up on our list is job opportunities. Now, being the Motor City, you naturally think of the automotive industry. We are the auto capital of the world here in Detroit. And there's a lot that goes on around the automotive industry. You got the big 3, GM, Ford, Stellantis. And then on top of that, you also have so many tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 suppliers. And these are all the people that make the seats, that make the steering wheels, that make the components, that make the plastics, that make the actual metals that go in all of our vehicles. Now, one of the cool things with the automotive industry is that it is a massive, massive driver in the economy as well. So along with that, there's a lot of technical services, there's a lot of software services, there's a lot of consultants, in the automotive industry. So we have a lot of these companies like Deloitte, KPMG, all those consultants, that make a huge impact on efficiencies in the automotive industry. And some might say, well, it might be screwing things up a little bit, but I'll let you guys decide if that's the case. That's just a long drawn out way of saying there's more and more companies that are surrounding the automotive industry, and it's taking a different shape, from electronics to batteries to the technical services and professional services that all need to contribute to make autonomous vehicles and electric vehicles. So all these people in the automotive industry, they actually need 2 major things. They need education and they need healthcare. And those are 2 big driving industries here in Michigan as well. You got the University of Michigan, Michigan State University, Wayne State University, Eastern, Western, Northern, so many different universities here in Michigan and a ton of public schools. So education is big. And then you have the healthcare industry, big hospitals like University of Michigan and the whole Trinity, healthcare system and Henry Ford healthcare system. So there's a lot of jobs for nurses, doctors, surgeons, the list goes on and on and on. But between these three industries, there's a massive amount of jobs here that really center around software, professional services, engineering, technical services, administrative work, supply chain's big as well. I came from that industry. So lots of jobs in those specific industries altogether. Next up on our list is entrepreneurship. Now, we have a massive startup community here. We have companies that come and actually want to put their business in Detroit because they need to be around other like-minded startups. And we just got done talking about autonomous vehicles, electrification of vehicles, and so many other different companies that are kind of swarming in that ecosystem. So naturally, where's the best place to put a company that is servicing those type of industries? Healthcare, education, automotive. Well, what better than Detroit to be right next to the people that you're trying to sell your services to, you're trying to sell your products to. And that's just scraping the surface on the type of companies that are starting their companies here in Detroit. You have other companies in completely different industries, like a company like StockX, which is revolutionizing the authenticity of collectibles and sneakers. They started with selling shoes, and if you want to make sure you're buying authentic Air Jordans, StockX is the place to go. That is the marketplace to be in. If you want cybersecurity, there's companies like Duo Security. Well, they're in Ann Arbor, but they also have a company called Dynatrace that is revolutionizing cybersecurity. I don't know exactly what they do, but they are making some big waves in the cybersecurity space and have raised a ton of capital. All right, so next up, I want to talk about the food scene. Now, you see this smile on my face? That's because I'm a little fat kid inside. You guys, if I could eat all the sweets all the time, I would be so happy. But we all know that's not good for us. So indulgement when necessary, and Detroit has some really awesome places to eat. Now, some staples here in Detroit are definitely pizza, right? If you haven't heard of Detroit style pizza, arguably Detroit style pizza, Chicago style pizza, New York style pizza, New Haven style. I don't even really know the difference between New York and New Haven. I think it's a thing Dave Portnoy made up. I have no idea. But Detroit, Chicago, New York. For me, I love Detroit style pizza. And I'm not just saying that because I'm from Detroit. I absolutely love it. You get a corner bite with the golden crust on the outside. It's crispy. You get the sauce, you get the cheese. I'm getting hungry just talking about it. There's nothing better, okay? But it has to be crispy. It can't be like a flimsy Detroit style pizza. I'm with Dave Portnoy, El Presidente, love you. I'm with him on no flop. If you got flop on a Detroit style pizza, it's absolutely terrible. I mean, I can see a little flop on a New York style pizza. It's hard to get a crispy thing under there. But
one bite, everybody knows the rules. Detroit style pizza. I like Detroit style pizza.
Detroit style pizza, one of the best places. Go to Buddy's, Cloverleaf. Those are all great Detroit style pizzas. There's a ton more too. There's resources. Go check it out. The other staple here in Detroit is a Coney dog. Now, if you haven't had a Coney dog, there's National Coney Island, there's Lafayette Coney Island, there's American Coney Island. All pretty much serve the same thing, but there's probably some people that will say, no, definitely go to Lafayette Coney Island. No, go to National Coney Island. No, go to Leo's. Okay, there's a lot of different Coney Islands, but if you want to try the staples, go to Lafayette, American, and National Coney Island. Try those three, report back, let me know which one you like. To me, they're all the same. It's a sloppy mess of hot dogs. And no, you do not put ketchup on your Coney dog. If you ask any true Michigander, onions and mustard, that's it. Of course, the chili, but ketchup, you might get a little bit of a stare. You might get kicked out of the restaurant. You might even get spit on in Detroit if you put ketchup on your Coney dog. Not kidding. Go try it out. Let me know how it goes. So some other notable restaurants that you should definitely check out if you're looking for a good steak, good atmosphere, and great drinks. Check out Prime and Proper. It is a little bit pricey, so bring your checkbook. If you want some good barbecue, go to Slow's Barbecue. That one is phenomenal. People rave about it. I love it. I can only eat about half of the ribs. They're so juicy, so tender, and the barbecue sauce is really good. And then if you're looking for some good Polish food, which I know you're thinking like, Eric, why am I going to Detroit for Polish food? Well, fun fact is Hamtramck is one of the largest Polish populations here in Detroit. So there is a lot of restaurants and a lot of bakeries and a lot of things that center around the Polish heritage. Now, being Polish myself, my grandma made a family tradition that said, hey, look, guys, we can go out to eat. We can have Easter dinner and all that. But wouldn't it be fun to go down to the Eastern market, do a little shopping, get some flowers, go to Rocky's Peanuts, and as a family, head over to Polonia and grab some food. And I just remember going into the restaurant. It's a little tiny restaurant, and the warm welcome we got from the family that ran it, to the other families that were there, to my family, see my aunts and uncles and cousins, was just so special. So Polonia, I had to give them a shout out on this. So if you are in Detroit and you are looking for some good Polish food, they've treated my family so well over the years. So go check them out and show them some love. And next up on the list is the access to water. And no, I'm not talking about drinking water, even though we do have Great Lakes surrounding us. And I don't think we're going to run out of drinking water anytime soon. You know, places like Arizona, California, they're just asking for water. Michigan, can you give us some of that water? And people are realizing that those droughts in those areas, you might want to come to Michigan. But what I'm talking about is the Detroit River. So one of the places that you can live is actually on the river in Detroit, and you get access to some great views overlooking Canada, right? You can see Canada right across the street. And it looks no different than Detroit, just flip-flopped around, guys. So it's not like you're looking at anything, too crazy, but it's a great view.
No difference.
So if you're downtown, in a high rise, close to the water, you have access to some great views. There's some great park. And we even have one of our own private islands called Belle Isle. Belle Isle is one of the places that a lot of people have been going to growing up. There used to be a zoo on Belle Isle. Now it's where they race the Grand Prix. And it's really a great place to go. If you want to just, go ride bikes, get out in nature, Belle Isle, great place to be. And last but not least, we talked about the amazing cost of living here. We talked about the restaurants, the job opportunities, the entrepreneurship, and all the amazing food that we have here in Detroit. But one of these sticks out the most, which makes everything that I just talked about that much more special, which is this comeback story of Detroit. People being part of something bigger. And it wouldn't be where it is today if people didn't believe in Detroit and they didn't grasp onto this story of we will be the greatest city again. And I truly wholeheartedly believe that. I've watched it, I felt it, I see it when I'm down there. And being part of something bigger, millennials have just really grabbed onto that and said, look, I'm going for it. I'm going to live downtown when there was no grocery stores. I'm going to live downtown when there was really no infrastructure, from schools and all these things. And it has grown so much. So being able to say you were part of this rebirth of a major city in the US and specifically Michigan, that's pretty cool. All right, so there you have it. One of the most underrated cities, now becoming one of the greatest cities in the US. Still got a ways to go, but Detroit is on the map. We are back on the map, I should say, and I absolutely love it. So if you have any questions or need more information about moving to Michigan or specifically Detroit, please give us a call, shoot us a text, send us an email, or better yet, schedule a Zoom call with us. We'd be happy to help you make a smooth move here to Detroit. And more importantly, there's a ton of other videos on this channel. Go check these out. We got 2 of them right here, or just go to the channel and check them out. And hope you enjoyed it, and we'll catch you on the next one. Peace.